Hey, what is up, guys? Bluntcuts here. This is a Watcher Realms video. Thanks so much for tuning into my channel. I really appreciate it. I got Kigiri on the screen here. It's a Kigiri weekend. I hope your Kigiri weekend is going real well. I was able to snag him. I've got him fully skilled up. I've got him in some pretty decent gear here. As you can see, Soulbound Arcana, Warlord. I do, as an artifact, I do have a Wailing Skull on him. I think that as far as boss killing is concerned, I do think that is going to be a superior artifact, and I'm sure that some folks are going to disagree with me on that. Now, granted, I haven't specifically tested it, but I also don't think that it's particularly pertinent to this testing right here, because we're not really looking to test his max damage or try to find the best build for him or anything like that. What we're trying to do is figure out which faction he is going to be best in. Now, if you didn't know, I think most of you probably do, but if you didn't know, he is a dual faction hero, meaning that he can be used either as a Watchguard hero or as a Nightmare hero. And I want to find out which faction is going to best enhance his skill set, produce the highest output, so you have an idea of which team you should include him in when you are putting together some of these boss teams, take down Guild Boss 2, Guild Boss 1, things like that. So, in this video, we're going to compare those factions. I'm then going to go and I'm going to test him both in a Watchguard and Nightmare comp, both in Guild Boss 2, as well as on Nightmare 1 in Guild Boss 1. And we're just going to see what the highest output is. I will get into the specifics of the testing before I show you that. However, please do note that this video does have chapters in it. If you don't want to watch the boss battles, you just want to see the results, you can skip to the end. Before we even get into the boss battles, I am going to go through both of the factions and talk through what I see as the benefits that he is going to receive. So we're going to go through that quickly as well. But, you can just skip to the end if you don't want to watch any of that. So in any case, let's go take a look at the Watchguard. So Watchguard is pretty straightforward. We can go over to the skills here. I do have Ingrid, which is part of the reason why I'm so interested in establishing this. I've got Ingrid at A3. I've also got Toreador at A4. I want to see which one of these lords, to my two, honestly, highest awakened lords, I should be using Kigiri with when I am bringing him into boss battles. If I am going to bring him in, honestly, I'm not really sure I am based on my testing, but we'll see what happens here. So let's look at the Lord skill for Ingrid here. Radiant Glory 3 increases faction team members' basic attributes by 15%. That's standard. That's going to be the same with Toreador. So that is a wash right there. There is no difference between the two factions as far as that's concerned. However, the next part is unique to the Watchguard. Periodically increases faction team members' damage and healing bonuses by 50% for 20 seconds. The more faction allies there are on the team, the more frequently it takes effect. After the Lord deals direct damage to an enemy, faction team members deal 20% extra damage to that enemy within 3 seconds. And it doesn't list a cooldown on that, so I'm going to, assume that, and you know what they say about assuming, but I'm going to assume that that means that so long as Ingrid is hitting the boss, then we're also going to get a 20% damage bonus on Kigiri. Now, one thing I will note, if you are, we can go over to the gallery for a second and we can look. If you are trying to figure out whether or not you want to be using him as a Watchguard hero, but you do not have an Ingrid on your squad, then let's take a look at the other bonuses here. So we'll start out with Ayn, who did recently get a buff, I do believe, or at least he was slated to. I'm not sure if that ever made it to global now that I'm thinking about it. And I'm looking at this, I'm thinking maybe it did not. But he is going to do periodically increases faction team members' damage by 30% for 20 seconds. And then again, the more faction allies there are on the team, the more frequently it takes effect. It doesn't say anything about actually placing them on the map, but I did place them in my test just to be sure that there was no impact on that. But that only affects the frequency of it. In fact, I know that they did not update this because he got this weird, he got 15% on the basic attribute bonus for some reason as well, because they're really just trying to juice up Ayn. So I don't know if that ever is going to make it to global, but as of right now, that would be the epic bonus that you would get, would be 30% damage, more frequently with more Watchguard units on the field. And then if we are looking at Leia, who is, kind of the normal, the non-ancient exclusive option for the legendary lords in the Watchguard, increases faction team members' basic attributes by 15%. That is the exact same as Ingrid. And then you're going to get 50% damage bonus every 20 seconds. Again, the same thing as Ingrid. Now, this is where the difference is. When any faction team member is healed, their damage will increase by 25% for 10 seconds. So, again, there's no cooldown listed on that bit, so you could safely assume that that Leia is going to provide a 25% damage bonus to anybody's when they do get healed for 10 seconds. So, they would need to take damage every 10 seconds, or have to have heals go in at every 10 seconds from anybody, I guess, in order to boost that. It doesn't specifically say that Leia needs to be doing the healing or anything like that. So you would think that healing also comes along with a 25% damage increase. I mean, that's pretty nice. Honestly, assuming regular heals, that could actually be better than Ingrid's bonus, which is interesting. I never really noticed that. Works. But for the Nightmare units, it's a little bit different. So let's take a look here. So if you're using Wrath, which is a unit that literally everybody who's been playing the game for more than I think you get a free Wrath on day 40 or something like that, or 15, 4, I don't know. It's been a long time since I started an account, so I'm not sure. But I know you get him for free as part of the daily login rewards. He's also just, relatively, it's somebody that you probably are going to get if you've been playing for a while, even if you didn't get him that way for whatever reason, or you crunched him or something like that. He is somebody that you should have, but he's going to get 10% basic attributes for all of the Nightmare units, which is pretty standard. He's also going to give a stacking attack speed bonus. Maxes out at 35% attack speed when you do have 4 Nightmare units that have them deployed. Now, one thing to note here, you don't actually have to have 4 on the field at the same time. You can deploy one, take it away, deploy another, take it away. So as long as 4 of them have been deployed, then they will all get that 35% attack speed increase. So all of my testing was done with the idea of juicing that 35% attack speed bonus for as much of the fight as possible. So I deployed 4 immediately, and then if I needed to, like in the Guild Boss 1 runs, I did take a couple of them out, but that 35% attack speed bonus did remain. The other thing that should be noted here, healing received is going to be reduced by 20% in that case. Now, we don't really care about that in these fights in particular, although I guess it could be an issue potentially in Guild Boss 2, but I was not in particular worried about that. So, let's see here. Torador, my boy Torador, I've pulled him 5 times. Son of a bitch. I need him one more time so I can get a 3rd res on him, please. In any case, Torador increases faction team members' basic attributes by 15%, standard across all legendary lords. That is the exact same as with Ingrid or with Leia. And then if we were looking at the actual bonus itself, the attack speed bonus works exactly the same as Wrath. So that maxes out at 35% when you've deployed 4 Nightmare units. The healing reduced is only 15% with Torador, so you get a slight boost on that. The big one, though, and what will be particularly important for Kigiri, is this last bit right here. Faction team members' basic attack has a 30% chance of landing an extra hit. So, if we look at Kigiri here, you can see that in his talent, each time basic attack deals damage, it reduces the cooldown of Sweeping Strike by 1 second. So you're going to get extra cooldown reduction on his talent, meaning you're going to get more Sweeping Strikes out there. You're also going to get, obviously, more attack speed, which is great, so that is nice. These things are going to certainly help him out, but there's no straight damage increase. I mean, it's a monster damage increase on the Watchguard. So, we're going to figure out which one is going to outweigh the other. One other thing that I do want to note about the Nightmare faction is that Lust has a pretty solid synergy with Kigiri. For one thing, Kigiri, when he uses his ultimate, he does need to be attacked, whether that's by a button. Some source of damage needs to come in against him in order to trigger his parry, which will then trigger the Sweeping Strike or Ember Strike on the ultimate. Now, it doesn't have to be enemy damage. Lust can actually trigger that with her ally damage, so she does help out that way as well. Now, one thing I will say, you don't need to have Lust as or Kigiri as a Nightmare unit in order for Lust to hit him. Lust will hit all allies. But when Kigiri is a Nightmare unit, he's going to get an extra bonus on that. So for every 2 ultimates activated by a faction, the Nightmare Council, including the hero, that triggers Sinful Lash 1 time. So this helps Lust, actually. I wasn't thinking about where is the one There's another one here. Here we go. So, Agonizing Delight, Lust passive. She gains 20% damage increase upon dealing damage to allies with basic attack, lasting for 4 seconds. And then the second part is what's important here. If the targeted ally belongs to the Nightmare Council, there is a 40% chance to restore 10% rage for the target. So that means he's going to get around 2 more ultimates. He should have more ultimates produced in the same amount of time when he does have Lust on the team. Now, there is a bit of RNG that is inherent in this, but I did want to note that being on the same team as Lust is beneficial to him in more ways than one. Now, there's the bonus of kind of being able to trigger his parry. Does not require him to be deployed as a Nightmare unit, and that's why I actually have Lust in all of my tests, even when he is being used as a Watchguard unit, because you don't need to have him, as a Nightmare unit in order to benefit from getting that parry triggered by Lust. However, there's an extra bonus for having him as a Nightmare unit by way of this rage regen, which is great. So, without further ado, that is kind of my breakdown between these two factions. Those are the benefits that I do see between the two. If you've got anything else that you want to throw at me that please sound off in the comments. If you do feel that I missed anything, I will try to update a pin post at the top of this video if that is the case. But I think those are the big things that are going to impact his damage. Before I get to the testing, I do want to say that Kigiri, I think anyway, is 100% worth getting. If you are planning on buying summons to hit that 250 guaranteed, definitely recommend that you buy your W Gold on Smile One, which is the official third-party payment platform for Watcher of Realms. Every time you use Smile One, you're going to get at least a 10% discount on your W Gold purchase. On top of that, if you do buy during Kigiri's banner, so from October 17th through October 21st, you are going to get additional rewards, as you can see in the table to the right of me right now. Depending on the amount that you purchase, the more you purchase, the more rewards you get. There is an exclusive link in the description of this video. If you do follow it, it will kind of get... I'm not going to get a kickback from it or anything, but it does help me out. So if you're going to buy it anyway, we'd definitely appreciate if you use the link. Let's get to the testing. All right, so this is the team that I used for APOC 2 when I was testing him as a Watchguard unit. You can see I do have Lust on the team here. I've also got Torador on all of these teams. Reason being, I wanted to make sure that there were no hijinks going on because he didn't get the benefit, and Kigiri didn't get the benefit from the defense reduction on Torador. So that is important as well. You can see I did try to max out, put as many Watchguard units on the team as possible. So I do have 5 Watchguard members here. This is how I structured these Guild Boss 2 tests. You can also see on the Nightmare side, I do have Lust in there. Like I said, I've got my healers in there. I did try to keep everything as consistent as possible. Let's go take a look at the Nightmare team that I used. All right, and this is the Nightmare team that I did use. So you can see I basically just took out Lucius and I swapped in Arrogance. The overall BP is very, very similar, but we're not really all that concerned about everybody else's damage. We are more concerned about how much damage share Kigiri is taking up. So interesting kind of comparison here. Lords are the same. We've got the inspiration booster is the same in Constance. I wanted to keep that consistent. You can see I did swap in Arrogance. There are 4 Nightmare units on the team right now, so we will get a max attack speed bonus. We will get that 35% attack speed bonus here. Lust is obviously in there as well. So these are the 2 teams that I used. Let's go take a look at the fights. All right, so I do want to, before we get into the actual testing, I do want to just kind of talk through my methodology here. So what I tried to do was duplicate the logic that I was using as far as ultimate usage for all heroes, but in particular for Kigiri, across both of the faction tests here. So what I did was I more or less used Kigiri's ultimate on cooldown. I tried to keep Lust's ultimate on usage on cooldown as well in order to maximize the chance that she was going to trigger that parry when he did have his ultimate up. So that was my goal there. I know that I could have tried to sit on the ultimate and wait for damage to come out in order to trigger it and trigger Ember Strike. I felt like that after trying this a few times, I did not think that was efficient, honestly. It was kind of the conclusion that I came to. If you do that, then you are potentially missing out on less triggering it early, getting that Ember Strike anyway, and then you've wasted an ultimate cooldown that way. So I did not test that, but I also think that it should be noted that this is not a test trying to produce the highest amount of damage that I can for Kigiri. I'm trying to compare the 2 factions, right? So at the end of the day, the important thing in my mind anyway is that I was consistent in my usage across both of these tests so that there should not be a significant difference in the output, at least based on the way that I am using the character, right? So that is kind of my thought process. If you if you feel like that was incorrect in some way, you're more than welcome to comment on the video and let me know why I was wrong, or we can have a discussion about it and I can tell you a little bit more. But that was kind of my thought process in general. I'd say similarly, the inspiration buff, I did not sit on that. Because Kigiri has such a low ultimate cost, it did not seem to make sense to me to try to sit on the inspiration buff, because at the end of the day, I was going to work back around to it at least once during Constance's inspiration duration, regardless. So it did not seem to make sense for me to sit on that either. So, yeah, that was my thought process as I went through this. Let's take a look at both of these runs, and then I'll come back afterwards and we can talk about the results. Well, there you have it, guys. So what we saw is that there wasn't really much difference for whatever reason. Kigiri in the Watchguard test did 101,711,000 damage. On the Nightmare test, he actually did slightly less at 101,071,000. So approximately, 640,000 damage less as a Nightmare unit, which is a little surprising to me. I thought he was going to be a clear winner as a Nightmare unit, but that was not the case. Now, one thing I do want to note here, that because we're dealing with, the way we're testing this is we're stopping after the second overdrive phase, after the poison phase and the second overdrive phase. So basically, before we go into overdrive 3, there is a set amount of health on each of these phases that we're chewing through, meaning that it would be weird if there were like huge differences, or if there was a huge difference, it would be indicative of him taking up a larger share of the damage. Now, that wasn't the case here, and I think that, I wasn't really looking to really kind of go super detailed on this, but I just want to see if there was a major difference. And from what I saw, there was not. So I don't know that Nightmare is a clear winner, as many of us, I think, did believe it would be. So kind of interesting. Honestly, I'm kind of happy about that because, truth be told, we've got enough Nightmare fighters, right? There's so many. All of the best fighters in the game, or many of the best fighters in the game, are Nightmare units. So having him be able to be functional as a Watchguard unit where there's like no good fighters is huge in my mind. So very happy that he does competitive damage that way. But we're going to take a look at a more focused test where we're looking at Guild Boss 1 damage. Again, we don't really care about how much damage he can do to the Guild Boss. We're just trying to gauge what the difference is between these two factions. So let's go take a look at those runs, and then I'll discuss the results afterwards. All right, so this is the team that I use for both the Nightmare and the Watchguard test. The only difference is when I had him as a Watchguard, I had him in the currently displayed comp, and when I wanted to test him as Nightmare, I swapped these over. Now, I still deployed 4 Nightmare units for each run, reason being that I wanted to make sure that Lust got the maximum bonus. Now, you might be wondering, was Valeria in there on either of these runs actually doing damage? The answer is no, she was not. I did not want her applying the physical damage vulnerability that she does there and skewing the results that way, so I did not have her deployed on either one of those. I did have Torador deployed on both of these because I wanted to make sure that the defense reduction that he applies was going to be up the entire time for both runs, to make sure that there wasn't any debuffs on the target that were like skewing the results one way or another and kind of misleading us as far as total damage output is concerned. Now, you might say to yourself, well, but if he's running in a Nightmare comp, he's going to get Torador in there. Yeah, that's true, but you can also run him as a Watchguard, and you can have Torador in the comp as well, or some other source of defense reduction in order to duplicate that. So I'm really trying to hone in on the differences between the factions in these runs, and we're looking at Nightmare 1 as just a raw damage test, get an idea of which one is going to output more. It is, as opposed to Guild Boss 2, where there's a fixed amount of health that you're burning through, Nightmare 1 is an uncapped damage test, meaning that you could do as much damage as possible in a 5-minute period. So that's really what we're trying to hone in on here, get an idea, see if there's any kind of differences that we will kind of observe, as opposed to the Guild Boss 2 test, where the results were very, very similar between Watchguard and Nightmare. So without further ado, let's get to the testing. I'll discuss the results afterwards. Well, there you have it, guys. So the results we got here: Watchguard, 97,572,000. On the Nightmare team, he did 94,046,000. So about 3.5 million damage less as Nightmare. One thing I will say is that these results are so close that I don't think that it is fair to say one way or the other whether or not he's better on either one. I think what this reveals more than anything is that he is very close on in both of these factions, which is great news at the end of the day. That means you can use him in either place. Obviously, whether or not you're going to be able to bring Lust, if you are running him on a Watcher team, that's going to be team dependent, and he might take a dip on his damage if he doesn't have Lust in the comp, even if he's not being run as Nightmare. So that is something to keep in mind. But I really wanted to hone in on the faction boosts here, and that is what I tried to do. So I think we can use him either way, and I think that is really the takeaway here. I don't want this to come off as me trying to say, unequivocally that this is the be-all, end-all of his damage. Now, there was a bigger gap in the Guild Boss 1 testing, which is more of a pure damage test than Guild Boss 2 is. But I think that both of these results could have been swayed by RNG. We were really just trying to get a general idea if one was like massively ahead of the other, and that does not seem to be the case. Sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think of this testing. Is this helpful for you? I think I was going to do this for myself anyway, so it's good to know. I will say, wasn't overly impressed with this damage. It was fine, and he is at A0, so I mean, maybe I was expecting. I wasn't really expecting all that much, if I'm being honest with you, but he did fine. He's a good hero, but I think he really probably needs at least A3 plus in order to get him to a spot where he is going to be somebody that is really going to compete with the upper echelon of single target damage dealers that you are going to be bringing into a lot of these fights. But very solid hero. Very cool. Glad I have him on my account. I definitely think that if you haven't gotten him yet, make sure, if at all possible, that you do pull him while the limited banner is up, because you never know how long it's going to be until that comes back. But thank you all for watching. I do appreciate it. Please do like and subscribe if you did enjoy this video. Sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think. I will catch you all next time.